What if the hardest moment of your life became the greatest teacher you ever had? You're about to meet Dr. Terry Chase, speaker, author, coach, athlete, and one of the most wholehearted people I've had the privilege of speaking with. After a devastating cycling accident left her with a spinal cord injury, Terry had to rebuild her life one adjustment at a time. But what amazed me wasn't just her resilience, it was her perspective. In this conversation, we talk about reframing adversity, finding strength in unexpected places, and why adjustment, not acceptance, is often the path forward. Terry reminds us that life doesn't always ask us to become someone new. Sometimes it asks us to discover strengths we never knew we had. This conversation is full of wisdom, hope, and heart. And I think it's one you'll carry with you long after it ends. All right. Well, welcome back to the show, everybody. And I really couldn't be more excited to be talking to Dr. Terry Chase today. We are going to be learning some really important things that I absolutely cannot wait to get into. And so without further ado, Terry, could you please introduce yourself, the work that you do, your form of athleticism, and just all about who you are. Thank you for being on the show today.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm coming to all of you from Western Colorado. I'm in Grand Junction, which is the biggest, city on the western slope of Colorado. I've lived in the state of Colorado since about 1976, and I'm very happy to be here. I've lived both in the western slope. I've been over on the eastern slope in the Denver area, the Denver metro area. What I do currently is I am a speaker, author, and coach. I speak to healthcare. My wheelhouse is healthcare providers, educators, people in the nonprofit world. But I've also branched out and worked with legal administrators, corporate Taco Bell managers, and various and sundry other groups. I do have a platform, what I call my signature keynote, which is called Wholehearted Approach, which is really about lessons that I've learned in living with a disability. So that's kind of a short and sweet intro.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know we were talking. Well, first off, you and I have met because we are fellow speakers, and I've had the great honor of getting to know you over the last several months and learning about the work that you do. I also want to make sure that we mention your book, which I'm currently reading and I love so much. Mm-hmm. So tell us about your book. And you mentioned just now that you're living with a disability. And I want to get into the athleticism too, because you got everything. You got everything.
Well, my book is peeking over my shoulder right back there. It's called Spoke by Spoke, How a Broken Back and a Broken Bike Led to a Wholehearted Life. And about 38 years ago, I was riding a bike in from the outskirts of Grand Junction, and I was struck from behind by an impaired driver. Ended up on the hood of the car, and he swerved, I rolled, hit the ground, and sustained a T12 incomplete spinal cord injury, which then rendered me what I call half paralyzed. So I do use a wheelchair most of the time. I do have the capability of walking some, but not long distance. And after 38 years, the shoulders kind of take it. So I use my wheelchair quite a lot. But so living with spinal cord injury has definitely afforded me a whole new world. It wasn't an instantaneous transformation, but it certainly has been a transformational process for me around not just going deeper into my physical capabilities, but my mental, my emotional, and certainly from a spiritual level as well.
I mean, you are at the time you were you're a coach, right? Was it high school?
Well, I was actually at the time that I was injured, I was several things in the sports world. I was a physical education teacher at the middle school level. I was a coach of all the sports at the middle school level, even gymnastics, which I really wasn't even that kind of girl, but I coached them anyway. And then I refereed high school and college basketball and volleyball. I was one of the only female officials on the Western Slope for college for the RMAC. And then I participated in recreational sports myself.
So, I mean, athleticism is your life.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was ever a top athlete, but as I look back and reflect on how my athleticism, my ability to move my body in, all different ways, really assisted me in adjusting to this disability. I would never say I'm accepted it, but it really is. It's a matter of adjustment. And I think that's some of the things that I bring into my coaching work and my speaking work is that I'm not the only one who's had a bad thing happen. All people have had some kind of challenge in their life. And I don't ever want people to compare themselves to me. Oh, wow, she's sort of like, no. These are the things I've learned. And so my book, Spoke by Spoke, is a series of memoir stories about the ups, downs, the all arounds, and the things that I went through and the insights that I gained, and hopefully share those lessons with people through the written word, but also through my keynotes, my facilitated workshops, and the individual coaching that I do.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember I was reading your book and I'm just like completely, it's so hard to think about the life that you had and then what happened. Like it happened to her because how active, you are to this day, actually. Yeah. And to have that happen. I mean, it's so incredible to read through your story and to learn from that, because people, I think, I don't know. I think people just think like, I would never be able to survive that, and I think, and you actually shared, there's moments that you felt that yourself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the chapters is called Edge of Dark. And it was probably about a year after I was injured. I was out on the in the Canyonlands called the White Rim Trail. And I was driving the Sag Wagon, which was the 4-wheel drive vehicle. And my friend Al was on his mountain bike. And, so it's a 110-mile route that, we would drive like 30 miles a day. And we'd meet up at the end of the day to kind of share stories. And so one day I was just not loving my life. I was in a dark place. I'd really rather be riding my bike with Al and doing the things I usually do. But here I'm in a vehicle with a stupid wheelchair. And I got out at a ledge and I was like, all right, I'm just going to go over. I'm done with this. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this wheelchair. I want to be free. And so as I rode closer to the edge, somewhere along the line, a more wise voice came along and said, wait a second, what is it you want from this? And I, kind of had this little dialogue inside myself. Well, I want freedom. And the voice said, well, you're going to be free for about 10 seconds. And then after that, you're going to be dead. Is that what you want? And I had to really consider, I mean, it wasn't like an instantaneous, oh no, that's not what I want. It was more like, okay, let me think about this a little bit. And so I started to roll back and reconsider that I wanted freedom. So the freedom was not being out of the wheelchair. It was more of an internal freedom, really finding what it was I was to do in this life. And it was not the only time that happened where I was ready to be like, I'm done with this. Because it's hard. I mean, I'll just give you one little example, but parking in a handicap zone I do that because I need the space and room to get my wheelchair out, whether it be with my van or out of my smaller vehicle. And I drive into a handicap zone and people look at me like, what are you doing there? I'm like, well, I don't really want to be here, but I kind of need the space. So it's, stuff like that just is subtle things that I know that other people with disabilities face in their worlds. Like, do we ever fit anywhere? And so I really had to work with myself around, what am I here to do? What is my purpose? And it's not like one day I got my purpose. It's been a journey of, going into nursing, leaving teaching, going into nursing, establishing a patient and family education program within the same hospital where I had been a patient, Craig Hospital in Denver, and then being there for 18 years, developing this really robust education program to help patients and families, with their adjustment and all of that, turning into a nurse. I mean, I went through nursing school in a wheelchair.
Yeah, because you weren't a nurse earlier. You were teaching at the school, and then you decided to become. What made you decide to go into nursing? Was it because of your experiences with the community?
Well, it was my experience of being a patient. Because what I said, I felt better. There was something about my healing that had nothing to do with the medicines and the treatments and the therapy or the equipment. It had to do with the person. There was a presence that I got, that I noticed, that I felt better. And it was like, oh, that's what I want. I want to be able to do that. So I applied to the nursing doctorate program at the University of Colorado, which was based on the theory of human caring. And if there's any nurses out there, they know what I'm talking about. That's it. That's got to be it. It's got to be that human caring thing. So I went through, and in my chapter, in my book, I have a chapter called Flinging Forward. And honestly, I didn't really think about what it was going to be like to be a nursing student in a wheelchair. I was like, I just want to go do this. And I did that. And then, then I assumed my position at the Craig Hospital for 18 years, patient and family education coordinator, where I got to integrate my background in education, a person with a spinal cord injury, and now nursing, and provide this
Okay.
program. So, and then, there's been some other things along the way.
A couple of things, huh? What was it like being a student in a wheelchair? What was that?
It was
How was
hard.
that different? Because you just brought that up.
Yeah, I talk about another one of my signature keynotes is around integrating students with disabilities into healthcare systems. Whether education or clinicals, so on. And there's basically three barriers. One is architectural. So, can you get in the door? Do you have a parking space? Is there a ramp? Is there a button? All that kind of stuff. There's access. So there's access, through systems. And access to me is bigger things like transportation and policy and finances and, healthcare access. But then the third one, which I think is the most important, is around attitudinal barriers. And attitudes,
Okay.
if anyone's studied, sociology, we know that attitudes are sometimes the last to change. And I did bump into a lot of attitudinal barriers throughout my entire training process, my nursing school process, of nurses in the background saying, "How could she ever be a nurse? She's in a wheelchair." And I'm thinking, my ears are fine. It's my legs that are paralyzed. So, it's stuff like that. I mean, so there were attitudinal barriers along the way. And at the same time, there were people who were very supportive. So I never want to give the impression that it was all bad. It was just that, okay, there it is again. I got to deal with that again. And being able to be proactive, come in. I established this thing called be bigger than the chair. Like, all right, they're going to see me. We're going to make eye contact. We're going to shake hands. We're going to have this, connection thing before they even realize that I'm in a wheelchair. So it's just like, yeah, okay, yeah, I know. I am in a wheelchair. And so I always made sure that I was bigger than the chair, that they knew that I was going to be present and be safety conscious. And I was here to learn. And, I was going to do everything I could. And I would ask for help.
Yeah.
I think that when I speak to nursing faculty, or clinical faculty, I talk about a competency to me is that people ask for help. We have this thing in all I can't ask for help. They'll think I'm weak or I don't know anything. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Better ask for help, because if you don't, you're not competent in what you're doing.
Yeah. And people don't know, and like, I know I spend a lot of time thinking about how I don't want you to have to ask, but at the same time, I can't know every single thing. And it's very helpful when I do know, because I am very interested in making the adjustments that I need to make and changing my perspective. I personally am very interested in that, so it's hard.
Yeah.
What do you think about so many of the things that you're talking about are things that I'm relating to as I think about how I've helped people come online. I'm like, I'm going to be more personality than the online meeting, which, emotionally is nowhere near the same. But, people hate the online meeting, right? I'm like, no, but don't worry about the online meeting. It's just you and me. You know what I mean? And so I'm curious what your perspective is on, the rise in us meeting virtually, as it happened during 2020 and beyond.
Well, I think it was one of the blessings of COVID. I'll be very honest with you. I mean, I was a faculty. I was, my last brick and mortar gig was being an associate professor of nursing at Colorado Mesa University. And, we learned of COVID and shutting down. Well, I snuck back in the building, grabbed all my notes. I already had a Zoom account. I contacted all my students and said, guess what? I'll see you Monday. Here's the time. Here's the link. So I see it as a blessing. And yeah, there is that little bit of pause, but I think that there's ways to connect, with people in the online space. It's given me, and I'm sure many others, you included, access to, we could talk to anybody all over the world. I'm in a class right now with a cohort of 12 other women who are all in Europe and Canada. I'm the only American. But without that virtual space, we wouldn't be able to be together. So yeah.
One of my producers has a spinal injury, and I did not know that she uses a chair. For all the time that I worked with her, there was no need for me to know. Right. And we still work together. And one day, the way I found out was a post on LinkedIn. Do you remember when we did that, had AI turn us into dolls?
Oh, yeah.
And we put ourselves in the box of dolls. Oh, and she posted hers, and she was in her chair. And I reached out to her right away, and I'm like, I didn't know. And she goes, you didn't need to know. And I'm like, you're right. I did not need to know. And her whole life changed. She's a biologist outside. She worked outside, and she had a situation, but she is so incredible because she's like, people don't have to know. And I get to be just me. And in the case of, I don't have to be bigger than the chair online. I can just be me and do the work and show up, and it doesn't have to come up. And it's always really deeply impacted me. And it gave me a whole new perspective. I already have a pretty positive perspective about online, but that one gave me another one about what it really truly means for so many people. And like, how do we show up in spaces, and what are we trying to do, and what opportunities do we have with these screens and these ways to connect that are beyond the obvious ones, and it's a beautiful thing. And so anytime somebody is, poo-pooing the virtual environment in whatever way they do, I just think back to my friend and maybe many other people that I know that I don't even know. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why in the world are we doing this? Right. Obviously, this is a little bit of a soapbox for me, but
I think what you're also talking about, though, is, the major public health problem that we have right now is loneliness. And I don't know if you're up on any of the Surgeon General reports of the previous Surgeon General who, he did a lot. It was Vivek Murthy, and he wrote a book. I can't remember. It might be Loneliness. But anyway, he was talking about how, being lonely is worse for your health than smoking 18 cigarettes a day. And, so what I do, we know that. So let's see how we can connect with people. And so I think the virtual space and the opportunity to reach people where they're at is really important. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm thankful that the tech keeps getting better, because it does seem to be such a big barrier for people. You have not only the tech once you're in, but you have also just access to the tech that you need and the connections that you need to then be able to use the features to be able to connect. There's a lot of barriers. And
there are.
That's certainly where I've spent a lot of my work, helping people get past those. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
The three barriers, architectural access is, that's where that falls. So you're absolutely right.
It does. Access. Yeah, because everybody doesn't have equal access right now. And, it's changed. I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years, and it's tremendously changed. Where it is today is very, very different than where it was. But we still have, quite a ways to go to make it more accessible.
Yeah, I do want to.
We were talking,
and I want to shift the conversation to, some of the things that you bring to your podcast, which I really thought were brilliant. The whole
I know. I was just thinking the same thing. I want to talk to you about what we mentioned in the pre-show a moment ago, because how your athleticism informs not only your work, but also, you said, your life living with disability.
Yeah. Well, let me talk about how it influences my work. So my training ground as a speaker and a facilitator were 10 years with middle school kids. Okay. I attribute those 10 years to, I can handle anything. Bring it on, people. Anything. So, I'm in front of some big, large professional conference, 800 people. I'm like, okay, you people, any bad behavior, I can deal with it. So if you need to get up, run around, do some jumping jacks, I don't care. But just so you know, I got you people. The middle school kids help me with that. So that's one thing. I approach my speaking from that energy of, all right, we're here to learn, we're here to play, we're here to do stuff. Okay. And I got you. And nobody's left out. Nobody's on the sidelines in my classes. Nobody's on the sidelines in my in the presentations or work that I do. So that's one thing, how I approach it. Another thing that I want to talk about and share with you is that going through the rehab with a spinal cord injury at the age of 32, having been a middle school PE teacher, a coach, an athlete, I rode my bike 40, 50 miles on a weekend up and over the Colorado National Monument. In the summers, I was an outward bound instructor, taking students up into the mountains for, experiences to learn about resilience and strength and all that stuff. So it was really hard. So I go into a rehab process where I'm like, okay, now we got to learn how to get out of bed, how to put your shoes on, how to brush your teeth, and then how to get in and out of a wheelchair and in and out of all the things you can get in and out of. And then it came to the day of, okay, now you need to order a wheelchair. And I'm like, that was like, ugh, do I really? And it was like, okay, so for what I did inside myself was, okay, I need to reframe this such that, okay, how would I go about ordering and, picking out a new bike? So I was like, okay, so I had that reframe of, okay, so I want a bike that's going to, or I want a bike. I want a wheelchair that's going to be sporty, that's going to be efficient, that's going to allow me to get in and out of places that I want to go. Here's the color I want. I want cherry red. I don't want any handlebars on it. Nobody's pushing me around. I'll put the tipper bars on it for a while and make you guys all feel good. All that stuff. So I had to go from a mindset of how would I order a bike? And that's what I did. And that's how I did that.
Does it have flames on it too?
No, I didn't do the sparkly wheels. No, none of that shit. No. Sorry.
That's amazing. Those are your wheels,
They are.
Like the reframe to this. These are going to be my wheels. Yeah, right. It's cool.
I don't want my chair to be the first thing people see. I don't. I want them to see me. And so the chair needs to support me, to hold me. I have a love-hate relationship with my chair. It's right here. It's with me all the time. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I love it. It's got to be with me so I can go. But, there are days like, I don't really want to be in a chair. I want to go walk up that hill behind my house, or I want to go play with the kids, or I want to get on my leg bike, or I want to walk my dog, leash free. So it is a love-hate relationship. And at the same time, my chairs have helped me. And that was one of the things at the beginning was, I'm going to make this work. Somehow it's going to work for me. I don't know how, but I'm going to make this work for me. And that was one of my mindsets that I took on early on.
The importance of the reframe. Are there other places that you could share where you've had to have a reframe?
Well, yeah, I think, I've over 38 years of dealing with like bathroom access, going into a place like the airports are like 27 single bathroom stalls. And they got the one big one at the end where I need it with the rails in the room. And all 27 are empty except for the one that's open or the big one, and somebody's in there. And so over the years, I've had to really okay, just reframe that person must really need it, and I better hold it, and I better be okay. So there's that kind of thing, trying to be learning to be kinder, gentler, more forgiving.
What you just made me think of is that a lot of times when we're looking at making something accessible, we make it not only accessible to those that specifically need it, but we make it accessible to everyone, and it's better for everyone. Because, I think people sometimes use those ones because they need more space.
Right.
These things are so tiny, you can't even get in there with your, and they close it. And so it's like, we could all use a little more space, and it's helping everybody.
Yeah, that's the reframe I've had to do is, okay, the lady's got 3 suitcases or she's got a kid in a wheel. That's fine. I don't care. Yeah. And I think
you only have one choice. So it is frustrating. I get that. I think about that constantly. And in that exact situation, actually, I will oftentimes not even use it because I'll just be like, it's just not fair. What if? I would feel horrible.
What if
I'll just wait.
You'll be like, oh God. Sorry, just what would Terry do? Don't. What
would Terry do? Yeah.
Terry's going, I want to be in that one, so get that out of it.
It's like, don't do it or just go super fast.
Yeah, right.
That's important. It's amazing that you are so strong to do that. Where does it come from?
Well, my spinal cord injury was probably the biggest challenge I've had in my life. But there were, certainly my young life had its own set of challenges. With family situations and disruption in parental, contact with my dad, and moving from New York, Long Island to Reno, Nevada in the dead of night, and all that stuff. So there were some other challenges. So, but I also think that from those early experiences, I learned that I found a way to find I found a way to make it work for me, whatever it was, and. So I think that theme has, carried through my entire life. And, I do have a deep sense of gratitude. I've gotten more into my own spirituality and my own identification of, listening to that voice at the edge of that cliff wasn't like a schizophrenic breakthrough. It was more like, okay, there's a divine presence in my life and I really need to pay attention to it. And I do.
Yeah. Is that why you live in Colorado? I'm kidding.
Well,
It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
It is a beautiful place, yes. And it was one of those things where right after high school, I traveled with a group called Up With People. And I don't know if any of your listeners are familiar with that, but, I did 2 years, and some of you know what I'm talking about. You learn to stick your hand out and make eye contact. Hey, I'm Terry Chase from Reno, Nevada. all that stuff. And you learn to be with all kinds of host families and all different kinds of things. And the day that we rolled into with Up With People, that we rolled into across the border of Colorado into Durango, into a little small town called Hesperus, which is where I was going to stay with the host family. I said to myself, I'm going to live here someday. I'm going to live in Colorado. Years later, I was living in Colorado. So that is that spirituality thing of creating what is it you want in the future. So when I work with individual clients, it's around what is it you want to create? Let's live it now. Let's start really bringing that into focus and taking small, tiny steps to make that true for you in your life.
Yeah. I have a really good friend who traveled with Up With People as well. Does that mean you were doing performances like stage, and I think hers was like some theater stuff?
Well, we all did. Everybody did something on stage. I was not a frontline dancer. I was not they kept me away from the mic. But everyone does everything. My thing was, I spent a lot of time in the lighting crew, and I did the spotlight. So I would be hanging off of, these high rafters or on top of some big ladder, or doing the spotlight, making sure that the singers were in the right place, or at least the light was in the right place.
Gotcha.
It was a great time. I mean, it was a huge experience.
I love that. As we think about, all that we've talked about so far, which is just absolutely inspiring, Terry. It's so nice to spend some one-on-one time with you, like I mentioned. As people who are speakers, trainers, facilitators listening in today are being inspired as well, is there something that you could share with us that you do that helps you prepare to take the stage or to begin a workshop that maybe you could share with us and walk us through how to do?
Well, I was thinking about that in preparation for this, and I couldn't come up with one thing, but I think one of my mantras is, if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. So, I try to bring an element of fun to everything that I do. So keynotes, I get up there, and most of the time I just start talking like, okay. And then, then I get into it. With a workshop facilitation, they're all about interaction. If I'm the only one talking, something's wrong. So I want dialogue. I want to get people engaged right away, right from the beginning. I don't do the thing where think of them all naked. That would be scary. I wouldn't do that. But what I do is
gave that advice long ago. I don't know that it works for anyone.
Well, what I do is, if I spend a lot of time in the back of the room before my talk, I go to listen to other speakers. I try to make connection with people are hearing. I have lunch. When I go to speak, I don't just run in, do my thing, and leave. I tell them, look, I'll be on property for, a day and a half, whatever it takes, because I want to know who the people are. So I make friends with participants. I've spent time in the exhibit halls. I had a great time at the Association of Legal Administrators out in DC, last month. I mean, I just felt like I came away with a bunch of friends. So I get to know people.
Yeah.
I want to hear what is it you want to get out of this conference? What's going on? I want to get into the energy. I want to hear their stories. So if anything, it would be, know your audience and spend time with them, listen to them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. I think what's so cool about spending time with you is that how you have such a way. I think the key message here today has a lot to do with the reframe that we talked about. Like, your life is how you look at it and how you decide to make it. And you are a living embodiment of that. And it is so inspiring. Thank you for sharing about your story today. And I would encourage everybody listening to pick up Terry's book right away. We'll put it in the show notes. It's called Spoke by Spoke, but it's extremely inspiring. I mean, I get the vibe as soon as I started reading the first page that you are like a tough lady, man, and you're going to make this work out, And I love that. And I think we need that.
Yeah. Well, people got a hard time. I mean, like I said, I'm not the only one. And I did not want my book to be if I can do it, you can do it. I wanted it to be, this is what happened to me, and hopefully you can glean some inspiration for your own self. Because I'm not the only one who's had bad things. Everybody's got something in their life that's challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. I know my mom would tell me about her grandmother would say this. So it'd be my great grandmother. She'd say, when everybody was complaining, she'd gather all the sisters around. My mom is one of 5. All the sisters and all the family and the cousins are from West Virginia. You get the picture.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody gather around. Everyone's talking about their problems and complaining about their problems. And so I'd like you all to put your problems in the hat right now, please. And we're going to mix them up and you're going to choose a new problem. And everyone's like, now keep my problem. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. I like that. That's awesome.
I love that. I think about that all the time when I'm whining about something and I'm like, wait, would I throw this in a hat and choose someone else's? No. I think I'll just deal with my own.
Yeah, they're there for us to learn.
Oh, it's so good to talk to you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And
I know it's fun. Where can we find out more about you and follow you, Terry? Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, I was just going to say how much I appreciate you. I think that's one of the things about the GOAT group is that having individual conversations with our members, our group, our GOATs, fellow GOATees, was really important to me. And I learned so much. And I just feel, I think that's what helped elevate me in my presentation, in my confidence, is just getting to know individuals like yourself. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah. You guys, what Terry's talking about is Terry and I are in a group together that are called the GOATs, and it's not the greatest of all time, though maybe we are kind of, but it's not that. It's actual literal GOATs. So that's the whole thing. But the main thing is that we support each other to, grow our businesses, be wonderful people showing up in the world. And that's how I've had the great opportunity to connect with Terry. And so that's how come you all get to listen to her today. It's so great. Terry, where can we connect with you and find out what you're up to next?
Sure. I've got a website. It's drterrychase.com. Feel free to check me out there. One thing we didn't talk about was my work with people and horses. I do facilitation.
Oh, yeah.
Incorporating horses into personal growth, spiritual development. I've got a couple of mini retreats. I do mini retreats, short experiences for people to come and do hands-on with horses, do some personal work, creative exercises. I also have a newsletter on LinkedIn, Wholehearted Wednesday, and I've done 120 of them so far. And then I have an email newsletter as well. So feel free to ring me up. I'd love to have a conversation with people. And I'm not a salesy, like 1995. I don't do that. It's just more like, hey, let's, I'd love to hear what's going on with you. And if there's a way to connect, great. And if not, whatever. But I really appreciate your time, Kassy, and those of you in your audience.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I'm looking at the photo behind you of the horses, and you do some incredible work with the horses that has taken you to travel around the world, in fact, right? Like when we were first met, were you in Australia with the horses?
Well, I was in New Zealand. I was not with
New Zealand.
See, yes, I did spend a little bit of time with horses, but that was a pleasure trip. But no.
Oh, got you. Okay. It's funny how things get in our minds, right? You do a lot of really
as far as transformation, the horses came into my life full on about 20 years ago, and they were a big part of my transformation in my world. So, and that's a good third of my book is around that. So if you get the book, check that out and ring me up. We'll have a conversation about horses. I
love that so much. Thank you so much for your time today, Terry.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Kassy.
That's your spark. Now go light something up. And hey, if this episode lit you up, share it with a friend, a fellow facilitator, or someone who needs a little more connection in their day. Be sure to follow the Spark Connect so you don't miss what's next. We've got more brilliant voices, bold ideas, and heart-forward conversations coming your way. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep showing up.